I've been playing the original Red Dead Redemption the past few weeks, since its controversial release on the PS4. This classic remains one of the best games ever made even 13 years later from its release back in 2010. As a big fan of its 2018 sequel and newcomer to the original, one of the first things that stood out for me was its oppressive, eerie atmosphere that I've not felt before in Arthur Morgan's journey across 1899 America. The big old western landscapes bring some real eye-catching moments for a now pretty old game. But matched with a haunting score, it expertly delivers a sense of unease during your epic journey through this haunted land, only emphasized more in the brilliant zombie-infested DLC.
Are you alone? No. I brought the great mass hordes of the undead with me. Of course I'm alone.
To start off, I'm a big fan of its highly praised sequel, which I couldn't for the life of me stomach my first time around. At the time of its release, I met my girlfriend, who's a huge fan of the first game, and of course bought every item Rockstar put on sale concerning Red Dead 2 release. She even bought me a copy of the game, which I of course couldn't refuse to play. I played and finished my first playthrough of Red Dead Redemption 2 and was quite happy when I did see those 30-minute long credits. I can't say I enjoyed my time with it, more so that I enjoyed the feeling of having finished the game. I could say that yes, in fact I did play and finish Red Dead 2, and no, I'm not the biggest fan, and here's why. At the time I found its hand-holding mission structure and tedious gameplay mechanics excruciating. The only driving force for me was its impeccable writing.
He was pretty shot up by the time I got to him. So really it was more of a mercy killing. Slow, but merciful.
You enjoy being a rich man's toy, dear.
I enjoy society, flaws and all. You people venerate savagery, and you will die. Savagely, all of you.
Oh, we're all gonna die, Agent.
Some of us sooner than others. Good day, Mr. Morgan.
Goodbye.
Enjoy your fishing, kid, while you still can.
Characters like Arthur Morgan, Dutch van der Linde, Sadie Adler, and even the horrible Micah Bell won over the hearts of many people over the years, including mine. About 3 years later, I wanted to revisit the game and start a new playthrough. Halfway through, I started joking with the idea of achieving the elusive Platinum trophy. To make a long story short, I eventually did get the Platinum for Red Dead Redemption 2 about a month later. Completing Red Dead 2 is one of the most fun gaming experiences I've ever had. Hunting down all the different kinds of animals, gaining the 70 gold medals in the missions, achieving 100% completion in the stats menu. It gave me a way deeper appreciation of the game that I never would have gotten by merely playing through the game once. I really know this world now. I know its flora and fauna, its saints and sinners, and its beautiful tragic tale it tells while you visit this alternate America. The world of Red Dead 2 is beautiful and tragic. Different environments blend together flawlessly, from snowy mountaintops, great plains, dense forests, and murky swamps. Its world is a real masterclass in open world design, a wild land slowly getting tamed by the times. I got so invested in this world and its story that I couldn't wait to play the first game and continue John Marston's journey. Wait, you're telling me it never got released on newer consoles? Oh, you know what would be cool? If they'd remade the original Red Dead Redemption in the graphics and engine of its sequel, so that you can just continue where you left off in the second game and go straight into the original. Oh man, I really hope they bring the first Red Dead over to new consoles. That will give me a chance to finally play the original. Wait, that's not what I meant. Now that they've re-released the first game for the whopping price of $50, I thought, oh what the hell, it's not like there's any good games coming out pretty soon. And bought it at full price. Yes, I know, I'm sorry, I'm part of the problem. Playing this game for the first time is just an absolute treat, and for better or worse, I now understand where a lot of people's gripes with Red Dead Redemption 2 come from. Red Dead 2 is an absolute masterpiece, don't get me wrong, it's in my top 10 games ever for sure, but the first Red Dead Redemption just had something. I don't quite know what it is, but Red Dead Redemption is a lot creepier. Maybe it's the end of an era, the dying times of the Wild West. Maybe it's because it's an older, more hardware-limited game, meaning emptier towns, duller color schemes, more space for your mind to fill in the blanks. Less is more. where Red Dead 2 really tried to emulate the world of the time, going for hard realism not only in gameplay, but looks and feel, notwithstanding the strange encounters found in Red Dead 2. Red Dead 1 tries to emulate the Weird West, the Wild Wild West you read about in novels and watch in movies, the Wild West filled with dying possibilities, strange happenings and the frontier myth. The frontier myth is a theme that states that the frontier is a border or place on the edge of American civilization, where on one side of the border is the civilized, honest and safe world, and on the other is an ultra-violent, dangerous and to an extent even paranormal world. This myth of the West was used by Frederick Jackson Turner in an essay about understanding American culture, read during the Chicago World's Fair in 1893. In this thesis, Turner defined the concept of the frontier as the meeting point between savagery and civilization, and argued that it had made the United States unique due to the hardships the pioneers on the other side of the border had to face to become self-reliant. Turner's thesis is far from correct though. In it, Turner fails to account to economic, cultural and social differences in America at the time. If we're disregarding every social and political factor of the frontier myth and purely look at its base border idea, a border between regulated safety and chaotic violence, we start seeing where the idea of the Weird West genre originated from. The Wild West is a concept rich with potential for strange and unknown happenings, as the frontier was a border that constantly expanded into a violent and unknown land. Who knows what could be lurking there? Robert E. Howard, probably best known for the Conan the Barbarian series, wrote one of the first pieces of fiction that can fit into the Weird West genre, The Horror from the Mound, published by the Weird Tales magazine in 1932, a magazine that also published some early work of H.P. Lovecraft. The story follows an American cowboy, Steve Brill, who laid down his rugged life and turned to farming. As all his crops fail due to the harsh Texan conditions, the cowboy attempts to dig up an old Indian burial ground that his Mexican neighbor keeps avoiding in hope for riches and treasure. Brill's arrogance in heeding the neighbor's warning wakes a vampire from its tomb and brings doom to all involved. The tale is more horror than western, but it's one of the first stories to combine the two. Many followed later and the genre saw some real popularity in the 70s due to comics like Ghost Rider, whose name changed to Phantom Rider after Marvel introduced the more modern motorbike riding Ghost Rider, and DC character Jonah Hex, who starred in their Weird Western Tales issues. As it shows, the Wild West was a semi-fictional location ripe for ancient curses, undiscovered riches and paranormal happenings. So how does a cowboy game that plays its cards relatively straight, for the most part, manage to convey the feeling that this entire place is haunted? Let's look at the most reasonable explanation I can think of why the game feels so eerie. The game is a lot older than its sequel and thus hardware limited. Older games come over a lot creepier more easily. You'll see that some highly praised horror moments come from non-horror games of an older generation. The unforgettable nightmare sequence of Max Payne, or take Metal Gear Solid 2 AI reveal sequence.
Raiden, turn the game console off right now.
What did you say?
The mission is a failure. Cut the power right now.
What's wrong with you?
Don't worry, it's a game. It's a game just like usual.
You'll ruin your eyes playing so close to the TV.
What are you talking about?
Games of that age feel more grey, sometimes uncanny and empty, because of its lack of visual details. They have an easier way of unsettling you than most current games with better graphics, unless they're really out to get you. Red Dead Redemption is a product of this time for sure. It may be one of the reasons why I love older games so much. Limitations breed creativity, and with a lack of detail, your mind fills in the gaps. Because Rockstar couldn't fill up Blackwater and Armadillo like they would Valentine and Saint-Denis, they had to get creative with the overall vibe, atmosphere and aesthetic of the game as a whole. Towns are empty because less NPCs could fill the streets. The logical creative route to take is to make it so that the player doesn't question the empty towns and lack of NPCs. It's not that the towns and locations are empty or barren by any means, but they sure are a lot less lively than in its sequel. Because of the time frame and the whole game playing with the idea of the end of an era, these western towns are supposed to feel less lively. People are leaving to head to a more safe and civilized world across the frontier. With this emptiness, a certain theme is set: the death of the outlaw age.
We can't always fight nature, John. We can't fight change. Can't fight gravity. We can't fight nothing.
Tumbleweed, for instance, is a literal ghost town. A once lively town now home only to bandits and thieves. After doing a little research, I've discovered that Tumbleweed has a reputation of being quite literally haunted. Players claim to see faces peering through church windows, hear footsteps and other noises in the mansion on the hill, and some even claim to see ghosts sitting in chairs. Some players even report doors opening and closing on their own. I for one couldn't confirm nor find any ghosts and faces peering through windows, but I must say that during my first playthrough I couldn't help but feel a little uneasy walking through places like this. The fact that everyone feels this unease while visiting these locations, without there even being anything there, really sells me on the idea that the developers knew what they were doing. It's not only abandoned ghost towns as well. You will think, well, yeah, of course the ghost town in the game gives off a haunted vibe, but browsing online a lot of people feel this unease throughout the entire map. My girlfriend, for instance, always says she hates being in the tall trees area of the game. One of the few forests in the map, the area is populated with perpetual bear spawns and a lot of different wildlife. Traversing the forest always gives me a feeling of being watched, and a good friend of mine who's currently playing through the game himself messaged me how paranoid he feels just being in tall trees. I think I know what generates this feeling. Red Dead Redemption's ambient music generates a slow building fear and unease. Just take a listen to this narcotic rock ambience and tell me you don't feel it. And this is just in a normal forest mountain environment, not meant to be scary or unsettling in the slightest. Though listening to all these tracks makes me think twice if these areas really weren't meant to be scary to begin with. Another thing that convinced me that Red Dead 1 is a much more somber and creepy game is its story. John is all alone in this world, with the old gang mostly dead and gone. He meets people along the way who are willing to help him achieve his goals of capturing Bill Williamson and Javier Escuela, but they won't do it for free. Once you've helped and met most of these characters, you'll say your goodbyes and won't see most of them again during your playthrough. The end of the Outlaw age is personified with Landon Ricketts, probably the most renowned gunslinger during the height of the American West.
New pair of pants? I think you're Landon Ricketts.
Oh, shut up!
Now living the remainder of his life in Mexico. This end of the era is only brought more swiftly with the direct actions of the player, with John being forced to hunt down the last members of the Van der Linde gang.
Fine. We've done this little deal for your freedom in exchange for all your men from your old gang. You gave us Williamson and Escuela. We still don't have Van der Linde, but now we know where he is.
Then go and shoot him.
No, sir. I want you to shoot him for me. And then I'll let you be. The last thing I want to do is make martyrs out of all these people. He could be killed by some petty squabble by another lowlife.
Compared to Red Dead Redemption's 2 Strangers missions, which aren't all peachy as well, all the Strangers here end way more weird, twisted and somber. A lot of people will mention missions like American Appetite, in which a cannibal kidnaps and eats people in the hills of Armadillo. But some of the lesser known Strangers left a lot of impact for me as well. California follows a man searching for his way to, you guessed it, California. You encounter him 4 times in the west of New Austin, each time more disgruntled and confused. You try and help him each time you see him, but to no avail. Eventually you find a man's corpse on the side of the road with a vulture pecking at his body. More Strangers like these include a man giving flowers to his long-deceased wife sitting in a cabin, and a Mexican man killing a woman of the night after you've purchased her freedom. And who can forget the Strange Man?
Hello, John. John Marston.
Do I know you?
I hope so. I seem to know you.
The Strange Man might be the biggest giveaway that Rockstar really meant Red Dead 1 to be a Weird West tale. John meets the Strange Man 3 separate times throughout the game, each time claiming to know John and his many actions. The man gives you 2 tasks with moral choices: stopping or encouraging a man cheating on his wife, and helping or robbing a nun trying to raise money in Mexico. For his last encounter, the stranger is seen overlooking John's home, Beecher's Hope, claiming it to be a nice spot.
Damn you!
Yes, many have.
The strange man accentuates the paranormal vibe throughout the whole game, with Rockstar finally all but confirming to employ this after announcing their renowned DLC, Undead Nightmare. As a first-time player of Undead Nightmare and a huge fan of the genre, it's absolutely insane to me that this got made back in the day. It's so strange and beautiful that I couldn't help but fall in love with it in the first few hours of playing. The game starts right before the ending of the main story, when John returns to Beecher's Hope. Though this time, instead of the US Army, the army of the undead visits John's quaint ranch, forcing him to head back into the now transformed Wild West. Your journey sees you heading back to Mexico to find a cure for the zombie disease now plaguing the once quiet landscape. During your travels, you'll meet characters from the base game dealing with the apocalypse in their way. Strangers return with new strange quests and predicaments, like helping the Armadillo Sheriff finding his deputies.
Never did have a brain between you.
Money has no use in this land ruled by the dead, and the only form of currency they'll accept is a bullet to the brain. Weapons and ammunition are earned helping random survivors and clearing towns of the undead plague, putting more emphasis on the survival horror genre where every bullet counts in the early game. Dealing with these outbreaks is done very cleverly in zombie movie fashion, as the undead are too dumb to figure out basic climbing. Most survivors are huddled up high on roofs and crates to shoot down upon the walking dead. The game won't restrict you to deal with them in a correct way though, galloping through the undead hordes with your trusty steed, raining down Molotov cocktails, TNT and holy water, or blasting them away with your mounted Gatling guns work just as well. The undead come in multiple forms and are surprisingly hard to deal with in bigger numbers, as you can easily get overrun and the only cure for their ailment is a clean headshot. Body shots will just have them rise back up. If you're not being careful, these critters can gang up, knock you down and spit in your face from a distance, turning a controlled situation into a panicked run for safety. The game sends you out to multiple graveyards across the land to burn caskets and end the undead's endless rise, bringing back some fun old friends from John's earlier visits. Rockstar's love and attention to the horror genre is apparent, as the DLC draws from classic horror movies like George Romero's Of the Dead franchise and urban legends like the Sasquatch and the Chupacabra.
We eat berries and mushrooms, you fool!
As the end times seem to have arrived, war, famine, pestilence and death also come to visit. These mythical beasts roam the lands and can be an absolute pain to find sometimes. Though if you do stumble upon them, they can be one of the best steeds John can wish for. Unlocking them also spawns the beautiful unicorn, which is needed to unlock the best costume in the game. Groovy.
Anybody out?
With this complete revamp of the game's map and mechanics, a haunting soundtrack complements the apocalypse. Horror synth tracks serve as the backdrop to the undead plague. If the base game creeps you out, just you wait and hear some of these bangers. It's funny because the Red Dead Redemption games really aren't scary games by any means. Sure, it's got its creepy moments, but when you get down to it, it's a rootin' cowboy shooting journey in which you mow down hordes of vigilantes, rebels, soldiers, bears, you name it. It's not even why I play these games. Rockstar Games is probably most well-known game developer next to Nintendo, and for good reasons. The insane quality of games they've released over the years is astonishing, and no other open world game matches Rockstar's signature level of detail and writing. Withstanding Red Dead's creepy and sometimes wacky vibes, the two games tell one of the best stories ever written in the video games medium, and I'll die on that hill if need be. With the recent departure of Michael Unsworth, one of the lead writers working on the Red Dead series together with Dan Houser for both games, Rupert Humphreys for Red Dead 2 and Christian Cantamessa for Red Dead Redemption 1, all who don't work at the company anymore except for Rupert Humphreys, I'm a bit skeptical about the future of Rockstar and the Red Dead franchise, and would be completely fine with the idea of Red Dead Redemption 2 tying the franchise together and keeping it at that. With these re-releases of older games, there will always be an audience like me that will experience these games for the very first time and roam the West in search of Bill Williamson and the remainder of the Van der Linde gang. Maybe they'll even experience some unease in tall trees or witness some paranormal activity in Tumbleweed. Maybe they'll even see a face peering through the windows. Maybe they see doors opening and closing by themselves. Maybe they will hear footfalls where none walk. Maybe they'll imagine it all. Maybe they won't. Thanks for watching. Let me know what some of your favorite creepy moments and locations are in non-horror video games in the comments below, and perhaps I'll see you next time.